My name is Macy Harrington, 29 years old. The late autumn sun slanted through my windows, spilling golden patterns across the oak dining table I had spent 3 hours arranging. Every fork and knife gleamed, polished until they caught the light like tiny mirrors. 24 place settings with vintage china I'd hunted down piece by piece from thrift shops and estate sales. 24 crystal glasses catching the fading sunlight in fractured rainbows. 24 empty chairs waiting for laughter, conversation, family. It was supposed to be my moment, my housewarming. The day I finally proved to my parents, to Brandon, to everyone that I wasn't just the afterthought, the responsible one who carried burdens quietly while others basked in attention. This home was mine, restored with sweat, savings, and 9 months of near-obsessive labor. Today was supposed to shine. Instead, my phone chimed again. The sound sliced through the silence like an accusation. The screen lit up with notifications I'd been avoiding for an hour, each one buzzing with a dread I already knew in my bones. With trembling fingers, I picked it up. Social media swarmed with posts tagged from downtown. Mom and Dad, champagne flutes raised beside my older brother Brandon, Aunt Susan's arm hooked proudly through his, Uncle Robert, his booming laugh frozen in a video clip, even Grandma, frail but smiling, tucked into the corner of the frame. And beneath it all, my mother's caption, neat and sharp as a knife. So proud of our boy's first home purchase. The Harrington family is celebrating Brandon's big milestone. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the table. My carefully folded napkins fluttered in the draft. My throat closed as I pressed a palm against my mouth, trying to stop the sounds from escaping. Tears blurred my vision, turning crystal glasses into shimmering ghosts. Hours earlier, I had been humming as I moved around the kitchen, excitement spilling from every motion. I'd risen before dawn, buzzing with anticipation. By mid-morning, the house smelled of rosemary bread, roast chicken, and the sweet butter of Eleanor's pie recipe I had tried for the first time. I'd checked and rechecked my handwritten list. Flowers arranged in blue antique vases, candles aligned, wine breathing on the counter. Everything perfect. Everything waiting for them. Rachel had teased me as she helped polish my grandmother's silverware. "You're going overboard again," she'd said with a smile, though her hand on my shoulder had been reassuring. "They should be proud of you regardless, Macy." "I just want them to see me," I'd whispered, adjusting a napkin for the fourth time, "to see what I've built." But at 1:45 p.m., the first crack appeared. A text from Mom. "Running a bit late. Start without us." By 3:30, co-workers Janie and Peter had arrived, warm hugs in place of judgment. My elderly neighbor Eleanor came bearing a lattice-crust apple pie, sharper and sturdier than anyone I knew half her age. 3 friends from college arrived with laughter and wine, but no family. By 4:15, after 7 calls to my parents' phones, straight to voicemail, I knew. At 5:08, Aunt Susan finally answered. Her voice was muffled by background music, laughter, the clink of glasses. "Honey, aren't you coming to Brandon's housewarming? Everyone's here. Your parents said you knew." I remember whispering, stunned, "I sent invitations a month ago, today, 2:00. A pause, then her airy laugh. "Oh dear. Well, Brandon said it was important. Maybe you could stop by later, after your little gathering?" Her words landed like stones in my chest. Your little gathering. Now I sat surrounded by empty chairs meant for people who had chosen not to come. The food cooling, the wine unopened. My guests, the loyal 7 who had shown up, exchanged worried glances across the table. Eleanor rose, steady despite her years. She lifted her glass, her gaze fierce. "Don't let empty chairs steal your joy, dear," she declared. "Today is Macy's Day." They all raised their glasses, their warmth filling some of the hollowness. Rachel leaned close, her breath warm against my ear. "This isn't the end," she whispered, her voice quiet but certain. "Something's coming." I clung to her words, though I didn't understand them. My phone lit again, Mom's name flashing across the screen. 7 pairs of eyes turned to me. Concern, anger, loyalty. I silenced the ringer with one decisive press and lifted my glass. "Not today," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. "Today is about the people who showed up." The words settled like an oath. For the first time all day, I felt the faintest flicker of power return. 3 hours later, the last guest drifted into the night. Only Rachel remained, boxing leftovers, her presence quiet comfort. "Stay at my place tonight," she urged. "We'll drink cheap wine and watch terrible movies until we pass out." I shook my head. "No, I need to be here. This is my home." The word caught in my throat. Home. Fragile, hard-won. A place claimed through sacrifice, but still undeniably mine. Then the doorbell rang. Its sound split the quiet like a blade. Rachel and I exchanged looks. My heart thudded. I wiped my hands on a towel and moved to the door. When I opened it, my mother stood there, Linda Harrington, her pearl earrings glinting in the porch light, her sharp eyes scanning past me into the living room. Without waiting for an invitation, she stepped inside. "May I come in?" she asked, though it was already done. I stepped aside, my stomach tightening. Her heels clicked against the refinished hardwood floors, the ones I had sanded until my arms ached. She glanced at the crown molding I'd restored, the antique light fixture I had hunted across 3 states. "It's nice," she said finally, lips pursed. Smaller than it looked in pictures. The sting was immediate, sharp and familiar. Rachel appeared in the doorway, a silent sentinel. I swallowed the bitterness rising in my chest. "Mom, why are you here?" Linda set her purse deliberately on the couch, her voice cool. "Honestly, Macy, I don't understand why you're making such a fuss about today. You've always competed with Brandon, always making him feel small. He's finally doing something positive, and you couldn't even show up to support him." Her words hit like a slap. My mouth opened, but nothing came. Rachel's quick intake of breath broke the silence. Finally, I found my voice. "I couldn't show up," I said, trembling, "because I was here, hosting my own housewarming, the one I invited you to weeks ago." Linda waved a hand dismissively. "These things happen. Brandon only decided last week. He was so excited." I cut her off, my voice low but dangerous. "You knew. You all knew." Her silence confirmed it. The betrayal burned through me, hotter than I thought possible. This wasn't just about one day. It was about every forgotten ceremony, every ignored achievement, every sacrifice erased while Brandon's failures were celebrated. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to swallow it. Linda's silence stretched across the room, heavier than words. Her gaze lingered on the silver-framed photographs I had hung in the hallway, photos of me sanding beams, painting walls, standing triumphantly with the keys. None of them had ever seen these moments. None of them had cared to. Finally, she spoke, her voice edged with irritation rather than guilt. "Macy, you've always been so dramatic. You turn everything into a slight. Brandon's party wasn't meant to hurt you." I felt my nails digging crescents into my palm. "It wasn't meant to hurt me?" My voice cracked with a bitter laugh. "You all chose him. Again. You chose to celebrate a lie and leave me sitting at a table set for 24. Rachel shifted behind me, as if ready to step in, but I lifted a hand. This battle was mine. Linda straightened her blouse, adopting the tone she reserved for board meetings and PTA conferences. "Your brother has been struggling. We just wanted to give him confidence. You're strong, Macy. You don't need the same attention." Strong, independent. The words I had been fed my entire life. They had never been compliments. They were excuses. "Do you remember when I made the honor roll?" I asked, my voice trembling. She blinked, caught off guard. "Of course." "You didn't come to the ceremony," I said flatly. "You were at Brandon's football game. He didn't even play that night. He sat on the bench. But you were there." Color rose in her cheeks. "That was years ago. You can't keep—" "And when I won the scholarship," I pressed, refusing to let her wriggle free. "Do you remember what you did? You spent the night consoling Brandon because he didn't get one. You didn't even congratulate me." Her mouth opened, then shut. I pushed harder, the years spilling out like a dam breaking. "I worked 3 jobs to pay my way through grad school while you and Dad paid Brandon's rent after he dropped out of community college. I saved for 7 years to buy this house while you funded one failed business venture after another for him. And now, the one day that was supposed to be mine," my voice broke, "you stole it." "You—" Linda's eyes hardened, a flicker of defensiveness blazing. "We've always supported both of you equally." The lie rang hollow in the quiet house. I stepped closer, my voice low, unyielding. "Name one thing, one moment where you supported my dreams with the same energy you poured into Brandon's." Her lips pressed into a thin line. Silence. The silence was louder than any admission. Rachel finally spoke, her voice steady. "Mrs. Harrington, with respect, Macy doesn't deserve this. She's given everything for your approval, and you've never once given it freely." Linda snapped. "You don't understand our family dynamics." Rachel's eyes narrowed. I understand enough. I've watched her break her back for crumbs of your acknowledgement. That's not dynamics, that's cruelty. Linda turned sharply toward me, ignoring Rachel. So this is what it's come to? You airing decades of grievances because we couldn't make it to your little party? The word little lit a fire in my chest. This house, I said, my voice shaking but rising, was built with every ounce of me. Every weekend, every vacation day, every late night after work. You told me I was wasting my money, buying in a bad neighborhood, but you never came to see it, never once. And yet you show up for Brandon's rented apartment, pretending he bought it. You staged a celebration of a lie just to overshadow me. Her hands trembled on the strap of her purse, though her voice stayed cold. You're being ridiculous. Not everything is about you, Macy. Brandon needs us more than you do. You've always been the independent one. Independent. The word felt like acid. I've been independent because you gave me no choice, I shouted, the dam finally breaking. Every achievement ignored, every milestone overshadowed. You never saw me, Mom. Not once. The room seemed to shudder with the weight of it. Linda's eyes flickered, just for a moment, with something that might have been guilt, or maybe fear at losing her grip, but she quickly masked it, standing taller. After all we've done for you. I stepped forward, voice like steel. What exactly have you done for me? Tell me. Because I can list everything you've done for Brandon, and all the times you told me to be grateful while you handed him the world. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Rachel's quiet presence at my back was a steady anchor. My pulse thundered in my ears, my body trembling from the release of decades of silence. Finally, I walked to the front door, pulling it open wide. The night air rushed in, cool and bracing. This house is mine, earned by me. Get out. Linda froze, stunned. She wasn't used to this script. Usually I apologized. I smoothed things over. I begged for scraps. Macy Elizabeth Harrington, she hissed, her voice sharp. You do not speak to your mother this way. I just did, I said, calm despite the storm inside me. Please leave. Her face reddened. She grabbed her purse with a jerky motion. Your father will hear about this. I'm sure he will. The door shut behind her with a finality that shook me to my bones. For a long moment, I leaned against it, chest heaving. The silence roared. Then Rachel's arms were around me, grounding me. I've never been prouder of you, she whispered. But her eyes held something else too, a warning. They won't forgive this easily, Macy. They'll come back, and when they do, it'll be war. I believed her, because in my family, forgiveness wasn't a gift. It was a weapon. And tonight, for the first time, I had refused to lay down my shield. The next morning dawned pale and gray, the kind of light that makes everything look washed out. My body felt heavy, drained from the night before. I hadn't slept much. The confrontation with my mother replayed in endless loops, her dismissal, her silence, the shock in her eyes when I finally told her to leave. I was nursing a cup of coffee when the doorbell rang. Its chime seemed too loud for the quiet morning. My stomach tightened, as if bracing for another blow. Through the window, I saw him, my father, Charles Harrington. His tall frame stooped slightly now. His once dark hair streaked with gray. He stood alone, hands tucked into the pockets of his wool coat, looking strangely hesitant. I opened the door slowly. Dad, may I come in? His voice was soft, almost careful. I stepped aside, wordless. Unlike my mother, he paused in the entryway, letting his eyes roam over the details. Hardwood floors I had refinished, crown molding painstakingly restored, light fixtures I'd chased across antique markets. His gaze lingered longer than hers had, but I couldn't tell whether it carried approval or calculation. Could I see it? He asked. The house, all of it. I hesitated, then nodded. Room by room, I led him through my creation. The kitchen with its restored cabinets and gleaming counters, the living room with built-in shelves I had sanded by hand, the office where I worked remote 2 days a week, the guest room Rachel had helped me paint a soft sage green. Out back, the vegetable beds I had built from scratch, earth still dark and damp from last night's watering. He stopped by the raised beds, his hands clasped behind his back. You did all this yourself? Most of it, I admitted. Friends helped with the heavier projects. He nodded slowly. It's beautiful, Macy. You've created something special here. The words startled me. Praise wasn't his language. Not for me. It should have warmed me, but instead it landed awkwardly, like a foreign currency in my hand. Valuable, but unfamiliar. Then he said it, the words that shattered any fragile moment of peace. Brandon told everyone he bought the place, you know. My chest tightened. I know. We knew it wasn't true, he added quickly, as though that excused it. Did you correct him? I asked, my voice sharp. He glanced away, clearing his throat. Your mother didn't want to embarrass him. He's been through a rough patch. He needed the boost. And I didn't? My voice rose before I could stop it. I worked 60-hour weeks, saved for years, lived in a shoebox apartment with furniture from college just to afford this place. And the one day I finally get to celebrate it, you let him steal it. He flinched slightly, but then the old tone returned, low and persuasive. Your mother is very upset. She thinks you overreacted last night. Perhaps if you apologized, we could put this behind us. I let out a sharp laugh. Apologize for what? For expecting basic respect? Macy, he said, stepping closer, we're not getting any younger. Our estate, the family's legacy, you don't want to create rifts that can't be repaired. There it was, not love, not pride, leverage. I don't need your money, I snapped. I never did. His jaw tightened. For a flicker of a second, anger flashed across his face, but then it softened into something else. Disappointment, maybe. Or the realization that his usual tools, guilt, promises, threats, weren't working the way they used to. You gave Brandon 3 business loans, I said quietly, stepping closer. The sports equipment shop that failed in 6 months. The food truck he abandoned after 3 weeks. The pyramid scheme you still won't admit was a scam. But when did you ever invest in me? He sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. He has potential. He just needs support to find his way. And what about me? I demanded. Did I ever have potential worth supporting? The question hung in the air. His silence was answer enough. We stood there in the cold backyard, the garden beds like trenches between us. My breath came sharp, the weight of years pressing down. Finally, he turned, heading toward the house. Your mother thinks you're being stubborn, but you've always been stubborn. That's nothing new. Stubborn, I repeated, almost to myself. That's what you call survival. He paused at the threshold, his hand resting on the doorframe. His eyes met mine, softer now, but no less heavy. You don't understand what's at stake, Macy. Families break when pride gets in the way. Something in his tone sent a chill through me. Not just a warning, a threat wrapped in fatherly concern. Maybe families break, I said, steadying my voice, when they've been cracked for years and no one cared to fix them. For the first time, he had no quick retort. He adjusted his coat, his shoulders stiff. Think about what you're doing, he said finally. Then he left, the door closing behind him with a quiet click that felt louder than a slam. I stood alone in the living room, heart racing, his words echoing in my head. You don't understand what's at stake. I wanted to dismiss it as another manipulation, but something in his voice lingered, a shadow I couldn't quite shake. Rachel arrived later, letting herself in with the spare key. She found me still standing in the same spot, arms wrapped around myself. What did he say? She asked. I repeated his words. Her brow furrowed. That sounds like more than guilt-tripping. Maybe, I murmured, sinking into the couch. But maybe it's just the same old story. Protect Brandon at all costs, even if it destroys me. Rachel sat beside me, her hand finding mine. Whatever game they're playing, you don't have to play anymore. I wanted to believe her, but my father's warning echoed, stubborn as a splinter under skin. Because in my family, nothing was ever as simple as it seemed. By the next afternoon, I thought the worst had passed, but the universe, or maybe just my family, had other plans. It started with a text from Katie, my cousin on Dad's side, one of the few who ever showed me genuine kindness. Thought you should see this, she wrote, followed by a series of screenshots. I hesitated before opening them, my stomach already twisting. When I did, the air seemed to vanish from the room. The family group chat. Aunt Susan. The situation with Macy is getting out of hand. Linda is beside herself. Uncle Robert. Brandon says she's just jealous of his success, always has been. Cousin Michael. Remember Thanksgiving when she threw that fit? She's always been difficult. The fit they were referring to? I had been 16, and that Thanksgiving I announced I'd been accepted to MIT with a partial scholarship. They all congratulated me, with distracted smiles, before pivoting to gush about Brandon, his C+ in math, his dedication on the football team. I'd sat there, forgotten, while he basked in praise for the bare minimum. When I excused myself, cheeks burning, they called it a tantrum. That moment had followed me like a scar. Scrolling now, I saw their words carved in pixels. Macy needs to stop making everything about her. She thrives on drama. She's never satisfied. It was like watching them build a mythology, one where I was the villain. The scapegoat, the overly sensitive one, while Brandon was their golden boy, blameless, brilliant, eternally deserving of second chances. I didn't realize I was crying until a tear hit the screen, blurring the text. That evening, I sat in Dr. Foster's office, surrounded by the scent of sandalwood and the comforting weight of old books stacked along her shelves. The leather chair creaked beneath me as I shifted, clutching my phone like evidence at a trial. "They've created an alternate reality," I whispered, handing her the screenshots. "One where I'm the problem, where I'm always the problem." She scanned them, her brow furrowing. Then she leaned back, folding her hands in her lap. "This is textbook," she said gently. "Your family has cast Brandon as the golden child and you as the scapegoat. He can do no wrong, you can do no right. It's a toxic dynamic, one that reinforces itself over generations, if unchecked." I stared at her, the words like foreign objects. Golden child. Scapegoat. I'd suspected it for years, but hearing it named, defined, it was both validating and devastating. "So what do I do?" My voice cracked. "How do I survive in a story they've already written me into?" Dr. Foster leaned forward slightly. "What would your life look like if you stopped seeking their approval?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unbearable. My chest tightened, breath shallow. "I'd be alone," I whispered finally, "cut off completely." "Are you sure?" she asked softly, gesturing toward the window where the afternoon light slanted in. "From what you've told me, you have Rachel, your colleagues, your neighbor Eleanor. People who choose to see you clearly. Isn't that family too?" I swallowed hard, the words lodging somewhere deep. They weren't my blood, but weren't they the ones who had shown up? Still, part of me ached with the idea. Blood was supposed to mean something, wasn't it? When I got home that night, Rachel was waiting with takeout and 2 glasses of wine. She studied my face as I walked in. "Rough session?" "They think I'm jealous," I murmured, dropping my bag. "They've rewritten my entire life, and everyone believes it." Rachel pulled me into a hug, firm and grounding. "Then we'll write a new story, one where you're not the villain." Over the next few weeks, that story began to take shape. My house, once echoing with loneliness, started filling with voices. Jane and Peter from work came often, helping with small projects. Eleanor taught me to prune roses, her weathered hands steady on the shears. Rachel became a constant. Movie nights, late-night talks, quiet mornings over coffee. And yet, even surrounded by this chosen family, the ache lingered. The mythology still pressed down on me, heavy as a chain. One evening, sitting by the window with a notebook in my lap, I caught myself scribbling lines over and over. If I stop trying, who am I to them? The answer was simple: no one. And maybe, just maybe, that was the point. But as much as I wanted to let go, I couldn't ignore my father's words echoing in my mind. "You don't understand what's at stake." Something was coming. Something beyond the mythology. And whether I was ready or not, I would have to face it. The knock came on a Thursday evening, just as I was pulling a tray of roasted vegetables from the oven. The savory scent of garlic and rosemary filled the air, comforting after another long day. Rachel was due any minute, and for once I felt settled. But the knock wasn't hers. Through the frosted glass of the front door, I recognized the silhouette immediately. Casual stance, one hand shoved in a pocket, head tilted at that familiar angle of easy confidence. Brandon. My pulse quickened. I hadn't spoken to him since the disaster of my housewarming. I opened the door cautiously. "Brandon." "Hey, sis." His smile spread wide, dazzling, practiced. He leaned casually against the frame, like he was dropping by an old friend's place, not the sister he'd publicly humiliated. "Place looks good." I didn't invite him in, not yet. "What do you want?" He laughed lightly, as though my guarded tone amused him. "Can't a brother visit?" His eyes scanned the entryway, lingering on the refinished wood, the photographs on the wall. I caught the flicker of envy before he masked it with charm. Finally, I stepped aside. 5 minutes, I said flatly. Inside, he made a slow circuit of the living room, fingers trailing across the edge of a shelf. "You've really done something here. Mom said it was smaller than she imagined, but..." He smirked. "It's cozy." I clenched my jaw. "Get to the point." He turned, slipping easily into the performance I'd seen 1,000 times. The grin, the lowered voice, the conspiratorial tone. "I've got an opportunity for you. Real estate development. Downtown. It's a small buy-in, big potential. Thought of you immediately, since you're into property now." My stomach dropped. There it was. How much? I asked, though I already knew. Not much, he said smoothly. Just 15 grand to start. I'd pay you back once it takes off. You know me. I wouldn't ask if I didn't believe in it. I let the silence stretch, watching him squirm. 15,000. Like the 3 loans Dad had given him, each one evaporating. Like the temporary help that turned into years of handouts. Like the promises he had never once kept. You expect me to fund you? I asked finally. His smile faltered for the first time. Not fund. Partner. This could set you up for... No, I said, the word cutting sharper than I expected. He blinked, thrown off script. No. Macy, come on. You've always been the practical one. You save, you plan. I need someone like you on this. I laughed bitterly. You don't need me, Brandon. You need my money. There's a difference. His eyes narrowed, the charm cracking. You're seriously going to turn your back on me? On family? I stepped closer, my voice steady. You turned your back on me the day you scheduled your fake housewarming on mine. You've been turning your back on me my whole life, and now you want $15,000? No. He bristled, mask slipping entirely. You're so damn selfish, always playing the victim. No wonder Mom and Dad get frustrated with you. The words stung, but not the way they used to. For the first time, I saw them for what they were. Deflection, manipulation, desperation. Get out, I said quietly. Brandon's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He grabbed his jacket from the back of the chair where he'd tossed it. At the door, he turned, his eyes flashing. You'll regret this when the opportunity passes you by. I met his gaze, unflinching. The only thing I regret is how long it took me to see you clearly. The door shut behind him, the echo reverberating through the house. I stood there for a long moment, shaking. Not from fear, but from release. I had said no. For once I hadn't bent, hadn't caved. Rachel arrived minutes later, arms full of groceries. She stopped short when she saw my face. What happened? Brandon, I said simply. She set the bags down, her brow furrowed. What did he want? Money, I replied. 15,000. Her eyes widened. And? I told him no. A slow smile spread across her face, pride warming her expression. About time. We ate in silence for a while, the weight of what had happened hanging between us. Finally, Rachel said, You know he's not done, right? They won't stop here. I know, I admitted, which is why I need to face them, on my terms. She looked at me, cautious. You're thinking dinner with your parents. Yes, I said firmly, but not as the girl begging for approval, as the woman who owns this house, who isn't afraid to tell the truth. Rachel reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Then we'll prepare. Boundaries. Rules. You won't go in blind. That night, I called Dr. Foster, scheduling an extra session before the dinner. When I explained, she nodded. They'll try to pull you back into old patterns, she warned. You don't have to respond the way you always have. I won't, I promised. We made a plan. I would leave if they belittled me or my house. I wouldn't discuss money with Brandon. I wouldn't stay longer than 90 minutes. And most importantly, I would speak the truth, even if it hurt. As I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. For the first time in years, I wasn't dreading facing them. I was ready. Sunday evening arrived cold and clear. I parked outside my parents' suburban home, its lawn clipped to perfection, porch lights glowing in the early dusk. The sight hit me with a wave of déjà vu. Every holiday, every forced smile around this table, every time I'd swallowed my words to keep the peace. Not tonight. Rachel had insisted on waiting at a cafe nearby, just in case. If it turns ugly, you call me, she'd said. Don't sit there and bleed alone. I promised I would. The front door opened before I could knock. My father stood there, expression carefully neutral. Macy, he said, almost formal. Dad! He stepped aside, allowing me in. The familiar smell of pot roast filled the house, but instead of comforting, it felt heavy, oppressive. The dining room table gleamed, set with fine china and polished silver. My mother busied herself with the serving dishes, avoiding eye contact. Brandon sat smirking in his chair, swirling a glass of wine like he owned the place. The silence as I entered was thick, unnatural. My father cleared his throat repeatedly. My mother fussed with her napkin. Brandon attempted a joke that fell flat. Thank you for coming, Dad said finally, gesturing to the empty chair across from Brandon. I sat, spine straight, hands folded carefully in my lap. I'm here, I said evenly, to see if honesty is possible. The words landed like stones in still water, ripples spreading across their faces. My mother's hand stilled on the serving spoon. Brandon's smile faltered. We made it through most of dinner on strained small talk. Dad asked about work, but interrupted before I could finish. Mom asked about the house, wincing when I mentioned installing a new water heater myself. Brandon, of course, monopolized conversation with vague tales of business opportunities, each more fantastical than the last. I answered politely, but I didn't bend. I didn't apologize. I didn't play the scapegoat. Finally, the tension snapped. My mother set her fork down with a sharp click against the china. "I don't understand why you had to buy such an expensive house," she said, her voice clipped. "All that money when you could have chosen something more reasonable, like Brandon did." The lie hung in the air like smoke. I set my napkin down slowly, deliberately, beside my plate. "I didn't come here for more lies." "Macy," Dad began, but I cut him off. "I've spent my whole life being erased in this family. Every success ignored, every sacrifice invisible, and tonight, you're still asking me to sit here and pretend." "You're making a scene," Mom snapped, her cheeks flushed. "This is why people say you're difficult." "Difficult," I repeated, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Because I won't keep swallowing it?" Dad rose halfway from his chair, his hands spread as though calming a wild animal. "Family should forgive each other," he said, his tone pleading. I looked at him, then at my mother, then at Brandon, who wouldn't meet my eyes. "Family," I said quietly, "should be worth forgiving first." The silence that followed was deafening. I pushed back my chair, the legs scraping against the polished hardwood. Slowly, deliberately, I stood. Mom's voice rose, sharp with panic. "Sit down. We're not finished." "Yes, we are," I said. I walked toward the front door, every step heavy but certain. My father's voice followed, soft but urgent. "Macy, please, think about what you're doing." I paused at the threshold, my hand on the doorknob. "I am," I said, turning to look at them one last time. "For the first time in my life, I am." Then I walked out. The night air wrapped around me, cold and bracing. I breathed deeply, as though surfacing from underwater. My hands trembled, but not from weakness, from release. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Rachel's text. "How are you holding up?" I typed back with shaky fingers. "Walking away. For once, walking away." I slid into my car, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the house glowing behind me. For years, I had fought to be seen at that table. Tonight, I realized the table itself was the problem, and I wasn't going back. 2 weeks passed in uneasy quiet. No phone calls, no surprise visits, no new accusations, just silence. For a while, I let myself believe maybe the storm had passed. I threw myself into work, into painting the guest bathroom, into dinners with Rachel, and evenings learning Eleanor's old gardening tricks. Then my phone buzzed with a new notification. It was Brandon. His face filled the screen, beaming, arm around a pretty blonde woman, her left hand held up to display a diamond the size of a marble. The caption, "She said yes. Jennifer made me the happiest man alive." I froze, my breath caught in my chest. Within minutes, my phone exploded with messages from aunts, uncles, cousins. "So happy for Brandon. Family comes first. We'll all be there for the big day." And threaded through it all, the same undercurrent I'd heard my whole life. "And where will you be, Macy?" The call from Mom came next. "Macy!" Her voice was unnaturally bright, brittle at the edges. "Have you seen your brother's wonderful news? We're just thrilled. Jennifer is perfect for him." "Congratulations," I said evenly, though my hand tightened around the phone. "We're planning an engagement party in 3 weeks, guys," she continued. "The whole family will be there. This is important, Macy. Family obligations come first." The words felt like a chain wrapping tight around my chest. I forced air into my lungs. "I'll think about it." "Think about it?" Her voice rose. "This is your brother's engagement. After everything we've done for you." "I need to go," I interrupted, my tone calm but firm. "Dinner guests are arriving." Before she could respond, I ended the call. Rachel, chopping vegetables across the counter, raised an eyebrow. "That sounded fun." "Engagement party," I said flatly. Her knife stilled. "You're not seriously considering it?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I know they'll use it to pull me back in. Pressure, guilt, manipulation, it's coming." And it did. Text after text poured in over the following days. "Family comes together for important milestones. Your brother would do the same for you. It's time to put differences aside." The most telling came from Aunt Susan. "Your mother mentioned you might help with wedding expenses since Brandon is between opportunities again." Rachel read over my shoulder and made a noise somewhere between a laugh and a growl. "Of course. The golden child needs another bailout." I set my phone down, refusing to answer. Dr. Foster's words echoed in my mind. You don't need to respond to every crisis. Selective engagement protects your peace. Instead, I crafted one careful message to Brandon. Congratulations on your engagement. I wish you both happiness. Nothing more, nothing less. That night, Rachel raised her glass to me over takeout Chinese. Look at you, setting boundaries like a pro. Dr. Foster would be proud. But the universe wasn't finished testing me. 2 days later, an unfamiliar number appeared on my screen. I almost ignored it. At the last second, curiosity won. Hello? A pause, then a hesitant voice. Is this Macy? It's Jennifer, Brandon's fiancée. My grip tightened on the phone. Yes. I hope this isn't inappropriate, she rushed on. But I'd like to meet you. Just us. I blinked. May I ask why? Another pause, softer this time. Because I've seen how your family talks about you when you're not there. I've noticed things. And after what happened with your housewarming, I need to understand what I'm marrying into. Her honesty stunned me. She sounded nothing like the polished women Brandon usually dated. Her voice carried an earnestness, even a hint of fear. I swallowed hard. Coffee, tomorrow, Riverdale Roasters, 2:00. Relief was evident in her reply. I'll be there. That evening, as I sat in the quiet of my living room, another knock echoed at the door. This time, when I opened it, I found my father, not with sharp words, but with a cardboard box tucked under his arm. May I? He asked. Wariness prickled down my spine, but I stepped aside. He set the box on the coffee table, his movements uncharacteristically tentative. Found these in the attic, he said. Thought you might want them. I opened the flaps and froze. Photographs. Dozens of them. Me at 5 years old, holding a science fair ribbon. Me at 12, learning to sandwood in Grandpa's workshop. Me at 16, grinning in front of the used car I'd bought with my own savings. Moments I'd almost forgotten, proof that I had existed, that I'd mattered, even if no one had said it at the time. I took these, Dad said quietly. Your mother thought it was silly to waste film on everyday moments. My throat tightened. He picked up one photo, me in a graduation cap and gown, smiling with genuine pride. He stood beside me in the picture, a rare smile on his face. We failed you, he said simply. I failed you. The words I had waited decades to hear landed not with triumph, but with a complicated ache. Brandon told everyone the engagement ring is paid for, he continued, lowering his gaze. It's not. He used Jennifer's credit card, promised he'd pay her back. The admission twisted something in my chest. Your mother wants me to convince you to attend the engagement party. Bring a generous gift, he added, meeting my eyes. But she doesn't understand that things have changed. I studied him, searching for cracks in his armor. For the first time, I thought I saw regret, maybe even the faintest desire to make amends. But the old patterns weren't gone, not yet. As he stood to leave, he glanced around the room, his voice soft. The house looks beautiful, Macy. You've built something real here. And for the first time, I wondered if he meant it. The Westbrook Country Club glowed with chandeliers and murmured conversation the night of Brandon's engagement party. I walked through the double doors with Rachel at my side, my forest green dress simple but elegant, my chin lifted higher than my heart felt. The room fell quiet as eyes turned toward me. Some relatives nodded politely, others whispered behind manicured hands. Aunt Susan's gaze sharpened like a blade. Uncle Robert looked away quickly. They had expected an empty chair with my name on it, another chance to paint me as the difficult one. Instead, I was here, uninvited by heart, but present by choice. Jennifer spotted me first. Relief softened her face as she waved across the room, her cream-colored dress catching the light. For a moment, I saw gratitude flicker in her eyes, like she already knew what this night might bring. My parents approached swiftly, their smiles brittle. You came, Mom said, her voice pitched for the crowd. How thoughtful. Wouldn't miss it, I replied lightly, though my pulse pounded. Dad shifted uncomfortably, torn between playing host and managing damage control. Brandon lingered by the gift table, laughing too loudly, showing off his fiancée like a prize. He saw me and froze for half a second before regaining his swagger. The evening crawled forward in strained small talk. Relatives who hadn't spoken to me in months had suddenly found the weather fascinating. I sipped sparkling water, every muscle tense, waiting. It came sooner than I expected. Mom slid beside me at the refreshment table, her smile fixed, her voice a hiss. Don't mention your house tonight. This is Brandon's moment. The old pattern. Linda dictated, Macy complied. But not tonight. I turned to her, keeping my tone even. I'm not here to talk about my house. I'm here to celebrate Jennifer." Her smile tightened, glass clinking too hard against her teeth. Before she could retort, Jennifer appeared, her hand slipping gently into mine. "There you are," she said warmly. "I've been looking for you." Mom's eyes narrowed, but Jennifer's presence pulled me away before she could dig her claws deeper. "Thank you for coming," Jennifer whispered as we crossed the room. "It means more than you know." I squeezed her hand lightly. "You don't have to thank me." The clinking of a champagne flute silenced the room. Brandon stood at the center, his grin wide, his charm on full display. "Jennifer and I are so grateful you're all here tonight. This year has been full of milestones. My new home purchase, this engagement." His words froze the air. I saw Jennifer's smile falter, her eyes darting toward me, confusion flashing clear as glass. Murmurs rippled through the room. Some relatives shifted uncomfortably, recalling details they'd conveniently ignored. Aunt Susan studied her plate with sudden interest. I stayed quiet, sipping my water. I didn't need to correct him. The lie was unraveling itself. Jennifer's hand trembled on her glass. After the toast, she pulled Brandon aside. Their voices rose in sharp whispers, cutting across the polished air. His gestures grew frantic, hers sharper, firmer. Mom rearranged a centerpiece with unnecessary precision. Dad checked his watch as though time itself might rescue him. I stepped outside onto the terrace, the spring evening cool and steady. Stars blinked overhead, indifferent to the chaos inside. Moments later, Jennifer appeared beside me, her eyes red-rimmed but clear. "He lied," she whispered. "The apartment, the savings, everything. He even told people the ring was paid for," her voice cracked. "He bought it with my credit card." "I know," I said softly. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "Don't apologize. Thank you for being honest when no one else was." The terrace door banged open. Brandon stormed toward us, his face flushed, his voice sharp. "What are you doing? Turning her against me?" Jennifer straightened, her voice steady. "She's not turning me against you, Brandon. You're doing that yourself." His laugh was harsh, brittle. "Don't listen to her, Jen. She's always been jealous of me. Ask anyone in the family." Jennifer's jaw tightened. "I already did. They were confused when I asked about the apartment because they know. They've always known." Brandon's mask cracked, desperation bleeding through. "So what if I rent? Everyone embellishes sometimes." "This isn't about the apartment," I said quietly, my voice carrying in the still night. "It's about the pattern. Lies, excuses, and everyone else covering for you while I was left invisible." 3 relatives had drifted onto the terrace, overhearing everything. Their eyes widened, whispers spreading like wildfire. Brandon's face hardened. "You think you're better than me, Macy? You've always wanted to make me look bad." "No," I said calmly. "You've managed that yourself." The silence stretched. The weight of truth pressed down until even Brandon's charm couldn't bear it. The terrace door opened again, Mom's voice, sharp as glass. "Macy, don't make a scene." But then Dad stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "Let her go, Linda. We've done enough." The words struck like a crack of thunder. Mom turned, stunned, her script stolen from her. I walked past them, head high, step steady. The relatives parted, their expressions shifting, some shame, some dawning realization. Outside, Rachel waited by the car. Her eyes searched mine. "Ready?" I looked back once at the glowing windows of the country club. Inside, their mythology was crumbling, exposed for what it was. Whether they accepted it or not was no longer my burden. "Yes," I said, exhaling a weight I'd carried for years. "I'm ready." A year later, the same sunlight streamed through my kitchen windows, painting golden patterns across my dining table. But this time, 8 place settings awaited, not 24. 8 chairs, all filled by people who chose to be here. Rachel poured wine, Eleanor's apple cobbler cooled on the counter, Jane tuned her guitar. Laughter already echoed through the house. Through the window, I saw my father's car pull into the drive. He stepped out carefully, a potted lilac bush cradled in his arms. When I opened the door, he held it out, eyes uncertain. "Your grandmother had one at our first house. Thought your garden might like it." I smiled, genuine. "It's perfect." Inside, the table glowed with warmth, not expectation. Photographs of my chosen family lined the walls. Rachel laughing in the garden, Eleanor teaching me to prune roses, co-workers turned friends helping paint. Proof of a new mythology, one I had written myself. Later, as twilight softened the sky, Jane lifted her glass. "To the house that truth built," she said. We all raised our glasses, voices overlapping, laughter spilling into the night. And for the first time, I believed it. Sometimes you set a table for 24, but only 8 show up. And those 8 become everything.